Joining me now, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You've been critical of Daniel Andrews' handling of the lockdown. What would you like to see from the Premier in terms of a way out of stage 4?
Well, Koch, it's not just me who's been critical. You've heard from no less an authority than the Australian Medical Association saying what's been happening in Victoria has been like watching a car crash in motion. And that is obviously a reference to what we've seen with quarantine, with the testing and tracing, the rejection of the ADF support, and now the overreach seeking to extend emergency powers by a full 12 months. What we want to see from the Victorian government is a roadmap out of these stage 4 restrictions. We know that they are costing the economy severely. Up to 400,000 people will either lose their job or see their hours reduced to zero. The hit to the national economy is between $10 to $12 billion. And we've got figures today, Treasury analysis showing that spending in Victoria is down by 30% compared to being down just 3% in the other states. And in sectors like hospitality, it's down by 60%, and like accommodation, it's down by 80%. And if these numbers are not enough to bring forward a plan from the Victorian government, nothing will.
OK. It's not just Daniel Andrews. You've been highly critical of all state premiers who are keeping their borders closed. When should they reopen?
Well, we need a definition, an agreed definition of a hotspot. And that's what National Cabinet has tasked the AHPPC to do. And that's why the Prime Minister has said he's determined to get a hotspot definition that's transparent, that sets out, based on medical advice, clear metrics, and that can lead to a better movement across borders, particularly to show more compassion and more common sense.
Yep. Because the cost is enormous. It's quite confusing for the average Australian because you've got state chief health officers saying one thing and being very conservative. Then you've got the national chief medical officers saying, hey, you've got to have a balance, you've got to keep the country moving. Have we got too many cooks making decisions on health issues? Why shouldn't we just centralise it with the national chief medical officer to make the decisions?
Well, we have got a Commonwealth Chief Medical Officer, and that sits at the Commonwealth level, but the states have their own medical advisors, and they come together within a group called the AHPPC. Well, that's a question that you will have to direct to the state premiers. What I can say is that from a Commonwealth perspective, we take our advice from our Commonwealth Chief Medical Officer, who's doing an outstanding job in very difficult circumstances.
Yep. You're carrying the can for premiers playing politics on their borders. How can you entice them to ease up the borders? Have you ever considered saying to them, hey, you start carrying some of the JobKeeper cost? We will bill you, rather go on the national debt, it'll go on the state debt, and you sort it out.
Well, the states do need to spend more. They need to boost aggregate demand, and that's coming directly from the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia, who has said that the states have the capacity to spend more, to borrow more, and to help the recovery. I mean, to put it in perspective for your viewers, Kochie, we at the federal level have committed to $314 billion worth of support during COVID. That's 15.8% of our GDP. The states have contributed just $48 billion, or 2.4% of GDP. They need to spend more on infrastructure projects, spending on local government, payroll tax relief, land tax relief. This recovery is going to be bumpy, it's going to be long, it's going to be hard, and the states need to do more of the heavy lifting.
OK, this is the last sitting week before Parliament, before that big October budget, 6th of October, I think, where you're going to extend JobKeeper and JobSeeker but water them down a bit. Is it the right time to wind them back, or should you keep it at a more sustainable level, at this level, for longer?
Well, the program JobKeeper was originally legislated for 6 months. We're now making it a 12-month program, and we have announced in recent weeks a commitment of more than $30 billion extra on this program. And already it's supporting more than 3.5 million Australian workers and nearly 1 million Australian businesses. So it's doing its job and it will continue to do so. But the Labor Party themselves have called for this program to transition over time. So that's what it will do. Okay. But to show you how serious the situation is in Victoria, there'll be more Victorian workers on JobKeeper than the rest of the country combined.
Wow, that's a staggering figure. Treasurer, I know you've got to go. Appreciate your time.
Good to be with you, Koch.
Here's that.
Well, as we